Hey viewers, check out this bizarre tale the female reporter shared with Chris. Recently, Horn secretly took $100 to establish shell companies, and Chris caught on right away. The shares in these shell firms are payment for the team members' murder. Finding those behind the shares will rescue all involved. Chris then took out his hit list, asking the reporter to reveal the shareholders' beneficiaries, but she didn't want Chris to become a killer. He vowed to punish these scumbags, but Chris couldn't wait. The look in her eyes told him her bag held a clue. Sure enough, he swiftly found a USB in her bag. The reporter tried to stop Chris, but he told her, "He won't spare those who killed 72. He has a special way to send them to the Grim Reaper." He then drove off on the way. Chris called Brand, hoping he could use his methods to locate everyone tied to the USB drive, but Brand thought it was just too risky. It mattered greatly and might draw authorities' attention, but Chris only wanted the list. Brand reluctantly agreed. Next morning, he gave a reply. Everyone Chris had taken out was on that list, including General Hammer and Commanders Holter and Cox. Obviously, they were just as deep. They were all behind this bloody mess. Chris couldn't believe how things escalated, but there was no time to dwell. He handed Mary a shopping list and asked her to gather everything. She was shocked. "Are we really making a bomb?" "We're making an AFP." Chris' words alarmed Mary, who told him to calm down and figure out what was going on. But Chris had no time for that. This is a clash between a man's vengeful fury and a woman's so-called reason. If it were me, I'd act fast. 72 are dead, no hesitation. Once everything was ready, Chris got down to business making bombs. Years in special forces made bomb making a breeze for him, and soon he had a whole truck full ready. He arrived at the building where his target was located, alongside FBI agents and the reporter. Horn, escorted by bodyguards, walked out, and the other reporters downstairs erupted in noise. Meanwhile, Mary parked her car at the intersection near the building to prevent unnecessary casualties. The FBI agents sensed something was off and rushed to check it out, right into Mary's trap. Just as Horn was to get in the car, the reporter rushed at him, disrupting Chris' plan. At that moment, the reporter noticed Chris in a nearby car, moved away from Horn's vehicle, and Horn also sensed trouble. Just as he turned around, Chris was already out of the car. Boom. A massive explosion turned Horn into a blood fountain, while Chris calmly suited up and prepared to launch a blitz on the crowd. Facing Horn's bodyguards, Chris sent them all away without hesitation. The remaining bodyguards panicked and hurried to flee with their boss. Leaving cover was a mistake. Chris swiftly neutralized the bodyguards, raised his gun, and charged. Before a swarm of cops arrived, Chris swiftly vacated the scene and called Mary, agreeing to meet up at the next rendezvous in 20 minutes. He grabbed a random car from the roadside, slammed on the gas, and took off, with police cars hot on his heels. After ditching the police, Chris arrived at his mother-in-law's house. He knew everything he'd done recently would soon make the news, and someone would come by to find out what was going on. Chris' words left his mother-in-law scratching her head. "I was with Lucy in my headlights, but people are dying, and I'm gonna do what's right. Whatever you do, you gotta do it, man." For the next little while, Chris was on the police's tail. To keep Mary from getting dragged in, he drove in the opposite direction of their meetup. The subtitles read, he instructed Mary to quickly find a safe place to hide, but she found herself surrounded by numerous police officers, and even the vehicle she was driving became trapped under their vigilant gaze. Chris rapidly swerved the wheel, trying to control the car, but still crashed into the mountainside and came to a stop. Several agents swiftly exited and attacked Chris' car. After shooting, they rushed over, but Chris was gone. Obviously, the police were stumped, while Chris had slipped deep into the mountains. After a wild run, he spotted a fire station. After people inside left, Chris sneaked in and took off his jacket, his arm wounded and bleeding from the battle. Chris found antiseptic in a nearby cabinet, poured it on his wound, then after a quick fix, headed deeper into the mountains. Little did Chris know, the FBI had deployed a special unit just to hunt him down, planning to corner him in the mountains. Subtitles, the special forces entered the jungle, ordered to hunt Chris down in the mountains. Suddenly, a soldier found a phone under a tree. He quickly called the commander over. As the commander was about to report to the higher-ups, a sudden noise filled the air from the phone. Smoke suddenly engulfed all, then a man burst from underground, tackling a soldier. The soldier was left stunned, his backpack snatched away before he could even react, and that thief was none other than Chris, a retired special ops commander seeking revenge for his family. The FBI sent special forces and even thermal imaging satellites to catch him. Chris knew the FBI tricks. He took a shorted battery from his bag and threw it into the woods, generating multiple heat signals. He used this method to disrupt satellites and ground special forces, gaining escape time. But his trick was soon uncovered. Guided by the command, they chased Chris swiftly. With superb skills, he reached the peak and set up his rifle before being caught. Pursuing special forces appeared in Chris' crosshairs. Ready to shoot, he suddenly recalled his time in Syria. He recalled executing missions with his comrades. He may be retired, but wasn't he once just like them? With that thought, Chris lowered his weapon. He just couldn't bring himself to shoot at these soldiers. Soon, the special forces came up the cliff, but on the peak, they found no trace of Chris. One soldier, surveying the terrain, spotted a bullet resting on a rock. Clearly, they had underestimated Chris' capabilities. Meanwhile, Chris was scaling the rocks, planning to escape from the place the special forces least expected. However, with his right hand still injured, his strength began to fail him during the climb. Eventually, a slip caused him to fall heavily off the cliff. Luckily, the drop wasn't high, and Chris sustained minor injuries. At night, he turned on the stolen radio, monitoring the command center's communication with special forces. Due to the sudden downpour, the thermal imaging systems were rendered useless, and the command ordered the troops to fall back to lower ground until the rain stopped. Hearing this, Chris sighed in relief. He searched his bag for first aid supplies. But after searching high and low, all he found were some plain explosives and a roll of detonation wire. As he lost hope, he found a red emergency flare. Chris lit it and heated his knife to treat his wound. Although it was painful, this method effectively helped prevent infection and stop the bleeding. Gritting his teeth through pain, Chris passed out. Next morning, the special forces entered the jungle again, launched drones, and found Chris on the mountaintop. Make sure not to overlook subscribing so that you can enjoy a greater number of thrilling and captivating stories.